أشهد
أشهد
أن
أن
لا إله
لا إله
إلا الله
إلا الله
وأشهد
أشهد
أن
أن
محمدا
محمدا
رسول
رسول
الله.
الله.
So you will say أشهد
أشهد
أن لا
أن لا
إله
إله
إلا الله
إلا الله
وأشهد
وأشهد
أن
أن
محمدا
محمدا
رسول الله.
رسول الله.
I bear witness.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.
Hello Muslim friends of the world. Islam is now starting to show its presence in Australia. In fact, quite a few Australian Muslims have a place in government. According to the Special Envoy for Organization of the Islamic Conference, OIC, Cooperation Ridwaan Jadwat, Australia today is different from the Australia of the past. The development of Muslims is increasingly rapid and they have many important roles in various sectors, including in government. Today, Islam is one of the fastest growing religions in Australia, and Muslims are an important integral part of the rich mosaic of Australian society, he said when giving a public lecture entitled Muslims in Australia, a story of cultural and religious diversity at the Postgraduate School, SP's, UIN Jakarta. Ridwaan said that the rapid growth of Islam and Muslims in Kangaroo country was marked by many mosques, Islamic schools, as well as halal meat and restaurants. Apart from that, many Australian Muslims have now become members of parliament, doctors, lawyers, diplomats, police, military, and entrepreneurs. The Australian government is also increasingly open to the immigrant population. There is no longer a difference between blacks and whites, said the Muslim diplomat who is now the Australian ambassador to Saudi Arabia. For Ridwaan, Australia is now not just a modern and multicultural democratic country but a country that recognizes all the traditions and beliefs of its citizens. It is even said that Australia is now a friendly place for everyone. Ridwaan said that he was an immigrant who had previously received unfavorable treatment from his home country. His mother is from Javanese and his father is from India. At the age of 8, Ridwaan lived in Durban, South Africa, during the apartheid regime, which separated blacks and whites. In his country, South Africa, Ridwaan and his family were very depressed by the apartheid regime. He was treated unfairly. He had to get on the bus, sit down, and go to the toilet only for black people and avoid white people. Such racial mixing was a crime, and at that time my whole life was defined by racial segregation, he said. According to Ridwaan, Australia, which is now his new home, after immigrating with his family, has a unique character and culture. Australian values was a life-changing experience for him and his family. In Australia, said the man who was born May 19, 1972, residents come from almost 200 countries and speak almost 400 languages. Not only that, more than 3 million people speak various languages other than English at home. Freedom of religion and belief is central to our multicultural model, he said. He said more than 130 religious traditions existed in Australia, including more than 600,000 Muslims. The presence of Islam in Australia, according to Ridwaan, actually predates the European settlement period. Indonesians were the first to introduce Islam to Australia in the 16th century. He comes from Makassar, South Sulawesi, and is a Muslim fisherman. Ridwaan said that by promoting and maintaining multiculturalism in Australia, a more dynamic and more inclusive society would be built. Apart from that, it can also foster health and prosperity for all Australians. It doesn't matter who we are and where we come from, he said. A number of sources say that Australia is a Muslim minority country. However, the good news is that the number of followers of Islam is reportedly increasing. The development of Islam in Australia is relatively fast, as can be seen from the increasing number of followers of this religion. Currently, the number has reached more than 813,000 people based on the 2021 Bureau of Statistics census. It is known that this figure shows an increase of up to 1/3 from the previous period. Islam is now the second most widely practiced religion in Australia, growing from 604,240 to 813,392 in the decade leading up to 2021. The official account of the Australian Embassy also states that 3.2% of the Australian population is Muslim. Of the total number of 813,392 people, almost half, namely 42.9% or more than 349,000 people, are residents of New South Wales. According to the 2021 census, there are more than 349,000 Muslims living in New South Wales, or 42.9% of the Muslim population in Australia, followed by Victoria with 33.6%, explained the Australian Embassy. In other words, the area with the most Muslims in Australia is New South Wales, then the second is Victoria. Australia is indeed a country with a high level of diversity, including in terms of religion. The development of religion in the land of kangaroos was influenced by waves of migration, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Who would have thought that Muslims in Australia also observe fasting for a duration that is almost the same as in Indonesia? Each region has a difference of a few minutes, but the average is 13 hours a day. One of the joys of Ramadan in Australia can be seen from the holding of the Ramadan Bazaar in Sydney. This is an annual event that never fails to attract the attention of residents. In the previous year, this event received more than 1.2 million visitors. The bazaar received a positive response from the public and foreign tourists. It is known that migration flows brought almost 126,000 people to Australia from 2016 to 2021, almost all of whom were affiliated with Islam. Their main countries of birth are Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and Bangladesh. Currently, Islam is the second largest religion in Australia. Even though there are not as many adherents as in Indonesia, that doesn't mean Ramadan isn't celebrated with great fanfare in Australia. The holy month of Ramadan in Sydney, Australia is always celebrated with one of the annual culinary events, namely Lakemba's Ramadan Night Markets or Lakemba Ramadan Night Market. The market serves a variety of dishes with Ramadan nuances, open before iftar, breaking the fast, until 3 in the morning when Muslims have sahur. However, the Ramadan dishes sold there are much different from those usually sold in Indonesia. The food and drinks at the Lakemba Ramadan Night Market come from various countries. There is food from India, coffee from Turkey, Syrian ice cream, and much more. Therefore, Muslims living in Australia, especially Sydney, no longer need to be confused about where to buy iftar and sahur food. You can visit the Lakemba Ramadan Night Market to break your fast or just taste Ramadan-inspired dishes.